First learned about BEMER in Germany. I taught for 10 years in Germany, going there 2 to 3 times a year. So my first recollection was about 2004, when I saw the first BEMER machine, whose dilation lasted 1 hour. And I decided that it wasn't very practical. Then several years later, the second BEMER machine, where you lay on a mat, and the dilation lasted 4 hours. So I was impressed with that increase, but still, from a clinical point of view, it wasn't very practical. Although I heard some amazing testimonials from German therapists who were practicing with those BEMER models. And I waited until the latest professional model, where the dilation lasts 12 to 16 hours. So being familiar with BEMER and the improvement of the latest model, the BEMER professional model, I bought one right away and started using it. Personally, I've had 2 rather dramatic personal experiences. The first being, after 2.5 months, I was looking at a computer one evening and realized I didn't have my reading glasses. So maybe you've been through this journey, but 12 years before I started using reading glasses. And about every 2 to 3 years, I would increase the strength of started out with 125s, then 2 or 3 years later, 150, then 175, then 200. And so that brought me to 225s. And one evening, after using it for approximately 2.5 months, I realized I was looking at a computer and didn't have my reading glasses on. And I could see perfectly. Now, how quickly this happened, because just a few days before that, I was using those 225 reading glasses and needing them. So I was astounded. So I was at my desk and I have a whole drawer full. You know, I'll be on a flight someplace and realize I don't have my reading glasses, I didn't bring them, I stop in an airport store and buy another one. So I probably have 50 pairs of these things. So I picked up a pair of 225s, put it on, and everything was blurry. And then I picked up a pair of 200s, and everything was still blurry. And I went all the way down to the original glasses that I bought, and there were these sort of, you know, professor glasses. You look over the side of them, and I could see perfect. And they were 125s, and this astounded me. How could my eyes just like that improve? So I made an appointment to see my ophthalmologist a few days later. I've had the same ophthalmologist for 25 years. He came out after testing my eyes and said, "What have you been doing for your eyes?" And I said, "Nothing really," because I didn't use the pad on my eyes or anything, just laying on my eyes and where I'd been injured in Vietnam over my low back, and I'll explain that next. So he said promptly, "Don't give me that." And I said, "No, really, nothing except BEMER." And I said, "Why are you asking that?" And he showed me the results. And my levels of peripheral vision and vision were almost identical to what they were 13 years previously. And he was astounded, and I was astounded. And then he asked me about BEMER, so I explained it to him. And he said, "I'll buy one." And I said, "Well, you don't know anything about it." And he said, "I know what it's done for your eyes, and if it's done for your eyes." And I said, "Well, they're $6,000. And he said, "Buy one." And I said, "Just like that?" And he pointed to his lab, and he said, "I have $500,000 worth of equipment in there, and nothing in there will do for my eyes what this has done for your eyes." That was my first BEMER sale. The second thing that happened was I was shot down in a helicopter in Vietnam. I was a former member of the Green Berets 5th Special Forces Group. and I was shot down, and the impact of being shot down in a helicopter, the base of my spine hit the armored plating, the seat that I was on was ripped off, and my spine, the impact that went up my spine fractured 3 lumbar vertebrae and 2 cervical vertebrae, completely shattered my 7th cervical vertebrae in 10 pieces. So I became a chronic pain patient, and that's how I became a therapist, looking for a way to get myself out of pain. And I was relatively successful, but where the lumbar vertebrae broke in my back, I had a massive amount of scar tissue. It completely shredded a muscle called quadratus lumborum on the right side, and the transverse process where the muscle attached completely broke off, 3 of them, and the muscles that attached there drew up. And I've had a contraction in my low back for, well, that was 1970. So from 70 until 2015, that contraction has been there. Despite having therapists that I've trained work on me about every 2 to 3 weeks. And then one day a therapist was working on me, and it felt like somebody was pouring hot oil on my back. The warmth was incredible. And she looked at me and she said, "That lump you always have in your back is gone." And I said, "No, it can't be gone. It's a massive scar tissue." Later we took x-rays, and not only was the scar tissue mostly disintegrated, but the spasm was gone. I had flexibility that I hadn't had since I was shot down in the helicopter in 1970. That was really quite amazing to me. And that was after about 4 months of using the BEMER. So those 2 things, plus my experience of seeing many people who owned BEMERs in Germany during the 10 years that I taught there and heard their own personal stories. Needless to say, I became very enthusiastic about it. After my eyesight changed so dramatically, I bought 3 of them. So in our clinic, the St. John Clark Pain Treatment Center in Clearwater, Florida, we have 3 of them. So the change is so dramatic. And plus using it, what we try to do is to have people on the BEMER before we administer manual therapy. And what that does with the additional hydration is it makes it much easier to reduce the spasm and discomfort that they're having throughout the body. I mean, there's no limitations when we're talking about the feet to the cranium.